Welcome back. Thank you for staying with the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. The Rastafarian community says the slow pace of decriminalization and legalization of cannabis continues to marginalize the Rastafarian population. During a press conference on Thursday, Rastafari elders decried the arrest and incarceration of 2 members of the Rastafari community for marijuana seedlings. Solange Alfred tells us more.
Chairman of the cannabis movement, Andre De Carey, says no jail time for ganja, following the 5-day incarceration of 2 members of the cannabis movement found with marijuana seedlings. De Carey alludes the targeted incarceration was carried out to send a message to falter the movement. However, he notes incarceration should never be the answer for plant material.
So it is quite disturbing to see that somebody who has 41 seedlings not worth more than $10 or $15 gets locked up for 5 days and gets charged $8,000 for cultivation of 41 tiny seedlings and $4,000 for possession of nothing, really. It wasn't ganja, it wasn't flowering plants. So incarceration plus an outrageous bail seems to us that this is a sort of lesson that they're trying to give the public or to the people, and we don't need this any longer.
Meanwhile, President for the Ayanola Council for the Advancement of Rastafari, Aaron Alexander, says the press conference was needed to underline the injustices still being carried out on members of the Rastafarian community.
We decided to call this press conference to highlight the injustice that still continues, under this illegal system, these illegalities when it pertains to the cannabis. And we know the efforts that are being made, the efforts which are afoot right now for the decriminalization and the legalization of cannabis in St. Lucia. And yet still the injustice that has been meted out to our people. We are very much disgusted and disappointed that these things are still going on in this country, in this day and age, 2019, when we see the push, even within the region, towards decriminalization and legalization of cannabis.
Furthermore, De Carey drew comparison to the allocations made for Carnival, which oftentimes sees the overconsumption of alcohol, and he says the disparity seen between these 2 activities versus cannabis usage shows a clear discrimination against the substance.
Carnival, we spend $3 million to promote Bacchanal, and then in the very same country, you're locking up people for tiny amounts of plant material. These are farmers. These aren't people getting on bad. These aren't murderers. They're not a threat to anybody in St. Lucia. So I think it has come at a time to expose the inconsistencies, the hypocrisy, the double standards in society that we accept here. And guess what? The Maliway person is the one that is most affected by this. And that's it. So it's a double jeopardy for the poor man, because sometimes the poor man is trying to hustle to make a living, and we reward him with a jail sentence. Yet the government is not providing jobs for everybody. We are going into a legalized regime, and I think the people out there who look at this report tonight should realize that this is poppy show. In colloquial terms, that is how you describe this.
The names of the individuals receiving the stiff penalties were not revealed by the cannabis movement. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
The director of the Caribbean Drug and Alcohol Research Institute is calling on the government to do its part to ensure a healthier nation. Dr. Marcus Day spoke against the backdrop of World Diabetes Day and concerns about rising cases of diabetes.
In terms of diabetes, we have to be very conscious of what we purchase in the stores. But I also want to say that government has to be very conscious of how they regulate the products that are in the stores that are causing the most cases of diabetes. So if you go into a grocery store and you look at the various shelves, one whole row of cookies, just cookies with sweetener in it, one whole row of breakfast cereals with sugar in it, Another whole row just with alcohol. 3 major contributors to diabetes: alcohol, sugar, white flour, white macaroni, all these products that we know scientifically are contributing to type 2 diabetes. And yet we have a serious issue regulating these products.
Dr. Day says the Chamber of Commerce and the government need to make a more concerted effort to regulate the products that are sold to the public that lead to the many health problems that are afflicting the public at alarming rates. Pathologist Dr. Stephen King has in the past recommended that higher taxes be imposed on unhealthy foods. As the world observes World Diabetes Day, the St. Lucia Diabetes and Hypertension Association hosted free health screenings for members of the public. Statistics show that 1 in 4 people living with diabetes is undiagnosed. The association says one major issue that leads to a deterioration of health among people living with diabetes is a lack of information about the disease and sometimes not even being aware that they are diabetic. World Diabetes Day 2019 is being celebrated under the theme Family and Diabetes. Families are urged to learn about the warning signs of diabetes and find out their risk of type 2 diabetes. Research conducted by the International Diabetes Federation in 2018 discovered that although the majority of people surveyed had a family member with diabetes, an alarming 4 in 5 parents would have trouble recognizing the warning signs in their children. 1 in 3 would not spot them at all. The president of the St. Lucia Diabetes and Hypertension Association, Andrew Felix, says this sad reality exists all over the world and definitely in St. Lucia.
In the diabetes community, we have a lot of challenges. People living with diabetes, there's more people living with diabetes. The escalation of diabetes is escalating. And what we're trying to do is reduce the number of people living with diabetes by any means necessary. And one of those means is more resources, more screening, getting yourself checked and making sure that individuals have the information so they know. Because the biggest problem with persons living with diabetes is 3 things. 1, they're not getting checked. 2, poor diet. And 3, inactivity in terms of exercise.
1 in 2 people currently living with diabetes is undiagnosed. The vast majority of these have type 2 diabetes. Left untreated or unmanaged, diabetes can lead to life-changing complications. These include blindness, amputation, kidney failure, heart attack, and stroke. Diabetes was responsible for 4 million deaths in 2017. The association is raising awareness of healthy lifestyles with a Breaking Habits November challenge.
This week is the second week. The second week is 100 squats. 100 squats every day. The third week is no chicken, milk or cheese. Now these challenges may not seem hard to individuals, but persons living with diabetes, this could be very hard for them. You know, I'm not saying chicken, milk and cheese are directly related to diabetes. What I am saying is they are directly related to weight gain. You know, and what I'm trying to do is get individuals to break habits, because habits are one of the causes of escalating non-communicable diseases, and that's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to bring non-communicable diseases down, the cancers, the sickle cell, the diabetes, the hypertension.
On Friday, the association will present glucometers to essential services and the elderly. A youth symposium will also be hosted to raise awareness among youth. Felix underscores the importance of society providing support to agencies like the St. Lucia Diabetes and Hypertension Association to ensure that aid is made available to those living with the disease. Now, members of the public share their thoughts on the health of the nation and whether citizens are sufficiently health conscious.
Yeah, I feel our eating habit is very poor, all right, just because of the manufacturer and goods of food that we have in our island at this point in time. Because the traditional way of having our Creole food, our ground provisions, but nowadays everything like a macaroni, a pasta, you know, all those kind of junk food we eat every time, and that's what we give our children, all those kind of stuff, you know, and we don't exercise anymore again, you know. So that's some of the problems we have. So we have to go back to our organic way, our traditional way, our Creole way, and start exercising more and more, and let's stick to that kind of regimental discipline. Until then, it will never eradicate diabetes, or even high cholesterol sometimes.
Well, we as St. Lucians, we don't take notice to a lot of things. Despite all the bulletins and the message, we retain a lot of our eating habits and our movements, as well as we succumb to the fatty foods and all of these sugary materials rather than go into the healthy lifestyle. Despite we have so much physical activity with sports and all of these different things, we still have lack of development in physical areas in St. Lucia. So honestly, we are not really rising. Though we have the bulletins and we say this is fat-free or fat-healthy, we still consume so much to the point at which it becomes unhealthy for us, and it leads to common circumstances that lead us to the hospital or even death, especially amongst the young people. There is a high level of diabetes amongst young people because we consume a lot of sugary foods that will clog arteries and do so much damage to us in later times.
Oh yes, I do think so.
Give me the reasons.
For one, you get so many persons nowadays with so many illnesses, and most times doctors can't even find what's wrong with them. Even at schools, you will get that parents usually pack junk stuff in their kids' bag instead of an apple, a fruit, something like that. I even think that the school's lunch menu should be changed, because in speaking about our health, I mean, there is something called a balanced diet, right? And even the lunch menus at schools, they don't even have something as close to a balanced diet. So yes, I think that nowadays we don't care too much about our health, and whatever we eat and whatever we consume, I think it has a vital part to play in our health from now until as long as we live.
Everyone I turn, I see a fast food thing. A fast food thing. So I know for a fact St. Lucia have a lot of diabetes. But the people in Lucia are doing nothing to check themselves for the diabetes. So at the end of the day, you see how much young people pulling out, how much conkers, how much tortillas, but you're not seeing a lot of them running. And they have how much athletic clubs in St. Lucia. And I seen how much young people with potential and things that could go and join them athletic clubs. But instead they sit down there, eating tortillas, enjoying the fast food. Instead of enjoying, being physically fit and all that. So that's my thoughts. People should really take into consideration all the athletic clubs they have in St. Lucia, all, because they have a lot of good ones there. Them could bring you far. Diabetes could bring you far, but in a negative way. But the athletic clubs could bring you far.
This is the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Stay with us. There's more news coming up after the break.